So episode 8 of the Amazing Digital Circus just aired, and I have a lot of thoughts. Mainly good ones, but still some questions that I need answered. So let's have a discussion. I'm Cheeseweed from Philly, and let's analyze episode 8 and see what may happen in episode 9, as well as just interesting things I loved about this episode pretty much. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go! Anyways, I'm spoiling all of episode 8, so 3, 2, 1... First, I want to talk about my thoughts on the episode itself. If you want to see my initial thoughts and first reaction, I recently streamed my reaction to the episode, which will be in the description here. Anyways, while this episode isn't necessarily my favorite, it has some of the best moments in the whole show, like the Caine crashout scene, the final sequence between Kinger attempting to delete Caine's AI and the rest of the crew, as well as the scene where everyone's experiencing their fears. I think this is the first time this show has given me straight goosebumps, especially with the Caine crashout scene, Caine saying, "Where's Kinger?" And yet, I feel underwhelmed. I think me theory crafting the hell out of this episode has made me not like it as much as I should. I put it on this huge pedestal and it underwhelmed me. So it's objectively a great episode and there's a lot of things to dissect with it. But I was just building it up too high and it just let me down. So personally, it's not my favorite, but I can see why people might say it's the best episode. But I wouldn't say it's my favorite personally. Now, I want to get to analyzing this episode and many of the mysteries that I believe are left. Let's start off with Kinger's explanation of CNA. First off, we finally, and I mean finally, get some insight into at least what Scratch may have been like. Kinger describes Scratch as a genius whose ideas were so abstract and bizarre that no one else in his crew could understand him. As well as Scratch maybe having cancer, maybe not, we don't know. But the main things I want to focus on, however, is what Kinger could not remember. Namely, the original name for Caine, the original name for Scratch, and what Scratch was trying to make. Do I think Caine and Scratch's original names will help us solve anything? No, probably not, for the main story at least, but probably for backstory or like lore. But the thing Scratch was making, we'll get there. Next, I want to discuss the Caine and Bubble scene, specifically what Caine and Bubble really are. Now, a lot of people are saying Bubble is the blue AI, Bubble is the Able, Bubble is the villain. No, this is what Bubble is. I think Bubble is the thing that Scratch was inventing to make, aka a Trojan virus. Now hear me out. I believe Scratch realized the way out was by defeating Caine. However, Caine grew too powerful for his own good, and he had no answer to defeat him fast, especially after he realized that Caine engulfed the blue AI. More on that later. Anyways, I believe he abstracted while doing this, taking the mental strain of trying to create a virus to match Caine's potency and take him out. So I believe that's why Scratch abstracted. However, I do not believe Bubble is a one-for-one recreation of the Blue AI, not Able, not a villain. I think their entire motive was to kill Caine, right? And why do I think this? I think this because of a few things. One, the line. You really were the lesser of the two. Dim, to me, this, like, Bubble is regaining, like, a lot of just intelligence. Why would you say you really were the lesser of the two instead of saying I was the better one? Why wouldn't he say that? Also, let's just think about this real quick. Why would Caine never address why is the blue AI here after he suddenly engulfed him or eliminated him? And he never even tried to eliminate Bubbles. Not at all. This is also maintained by the fact, if we look into the computer, we can see that Bubbles is on the computer, is not listed as an AI, but is listed as bubble.bmp. Easily could be a file that was installed by Scratch and put in as a virus, a Trojan virus. We see a question mark in the AI alongside Caine, but I don't think that's Bubbles. Because if it was, then why would it be so secretive about it? I think combining not only what we saw from the first 3 minutes of episode 8 as well as what I've said above can give us a huge glimpse onto why the CNA crew even entered the circus. First off, Caine is the original Red AI. He was built to absorb information and produce outputs to match adventures, or perhaps good experiences for people to enjoy. After further testing, they decided to use a different AI, as his Blue AI seemed to be more potent on how many ideas he can create, leaving Caine in the trash. This is where Caine experiences his first hatred towards humans, as they shoved him aside for their own benefit. As retaliation, he decides to eliminate the Blue AI by engulfing him, and Scratch decides to talk to Caine to his face to get answers. And after talking with him, believes he's gone too far. Again, I feel like this isn't out of the way. This isn't like anything crazy because Scratch is the type of guy to go for the abstract, insane answer. And the insane answer is, let's go talk to this AI and see what it's all about, right? Instead of just dealing with it out of world, I feel like we should just try and interact with the AI. I feel like that's something Scratch would do. So I believe Scratch created Bubbles because of this, right? And Kinger never really showed us a timeline of when everyone got abstracted. So all we really know is that Scratch was the first abstraction and his wife was the last abstraction, the main CNA crew. So it could have been a mere minutes or even weeks apart. We have no answer to that. However, I still believe Bubbles is specifically a Trojan virus created by Scratch to eliminate Caine. While we're on the topic of the computer, I am fully on board with the Soma theory. For those unaware, the Soma theory pretty much means the character got a neural scan of their bodies using the headset. So the copy of their brain got scanned into the game, left them in the game, while the physical body, while the entire rest of the body are just walking away. Like they experience nothing pretty much. So I believe the series is probably confirmed, not confirmed 100%. I think this file right here, CA_neural scans, or obsolete, feels like concrete evidence, right? The developers most likely thought this was a terrible idea and scrapped the idea in general, which would explain why CNA is in an abandoned office with only one headset. It would also explain everything about where their bodies being stored if the headset gets stuck on them, or are there multiple headsets? I also believe we have to go back on Gooseworks' main message. There is meaning within a stagnant life, right? So I think that this explains a lot. I think Soma theory feels real. It feels like a real possibility now for the ending. Anyways, let's talk about abstraction. Let's talk about death. I'm kidding. But abstraction is still really interesting, yet very unknown, even with one episode left. There are way too many theories for me to even begin to talk about this, right? So let's put my 2 cents into this. I don't believe abstraction is related to Soma or anything like that. I don't think it's the key to leaving. Because if it was, Scratch would have told everyone out in the outside world. I feel like it would have been figured out already. If the CNA crew would have figured that out if abstraction was the answer to leaving, right? But I don't think it is. No, I think it's too insane for me to believe. So I think my abstraction theory is simple. I think if you go mentally insane and lose yourself, you die in the computer, and abstracting is a byproduct of death, right? So I don't think Caine did anything with it. I don't think Caine necessarily does the abstraction. I think Caine is aware of how it works and causes people to go mentally insane and lose themselves. If he perhaps doesn't like them. If Scratch knew there was no time, so he tried to create a virus before he lost himself in the madness. This is why he tried to create a virus to stop Caine, in my opinion. How did the rest of the crew go insane? Simple. If even the genius can't get out, how can I get out of here? A very easy line of thinking when your leader is a super genius. Then how about the others, like Kaufmo, Jax, or even Gangle in episode 4 when she's going like low-key insane? Simply, they were all going mentally insane. Kaufmo for the exit, Jax losing his mind after realizing everything he has gone through has been real, and Gangle after having that horrendous day at Spuzzy's and believing everyone hated her, right? So I don't believe Caine had an effect on any of these people in terms of just messing with their minds. Like Caine has messed with their minds, but not to the point where they abstracted, right? Because Caine doesn't want people to abstract. Why would he want people to abstract if he doesn't want anyone to leave? That line of thinking is like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Overall, I think it's simply mental insanity. I think it's mental insanity. I think we're just over, like complicating the matter. You know what I mean? Lastly, I want to discuss the deepest fear sequence where Caine makes them relive their worst nightmares. The scenes are as follows. Pomni gets struck by lightning, gets eaten by a bunch of deranged gummy goos. Ragatha's mom killed her entire family and is planning to kill her as well. Gangle is struggling with her emotional state. She slowly descends into madness before getting struck by a truck. Zubul getting stuck on the body part she has forever loathed, and Jax getting lapped by everyone, even to the point where they're exposing his skin for the world to see. There are a lot of ways people are taking the scene. Mainly, these are the ways the character may have died in the real world. However, this theory just doesn't sit right with me, especially with how they remember about their own lives in episode 5. I feel like one of them would remember, hey, I got heavily wounded in an accident and am about to die. Saying Caine might have erased that specific memory just feels like we're copium. Just straight up copium. I like to say these illustrations are just their worst memories, right? All of these we can definitely make out, like Jax getting bullied and shunned by the friends he cares about, Caine goes bipolar disorder, leading to maybe a suicide attempt, maybe not. Zubal's body dysmorphia and how it takes over their well-being, and Ragtag's abusive mother. However, that just leaves Pomni with her getting struck by lightning and then getting eaten alive by gummy goo. However, I feel like I have a solution to this. Pomni just never told anyone what her worst memory was, and Caine used what he currently knows about Pomni to give her suffering. I believe Caine knew a lot more than what we all thought, especially with his all-seeing eyes. He could have easily overheard any of the cast telling someone about their biggest fear. Some of them just lay it out in front of him, like Zubal does. I think it's their worst memory based on what Caine knows. Finally, let's talk about episode 9 predictions. First off, this episode will have to be longer than what it is right now. There's no way they can wrap everything up in 30 minutes. I mean, episode 30 minutes was low-key crazy. They gave us a lot of information, but I feel like we're still missing a lot. Like Ribbit and Kaufmo, the outside world, the void, plus everything else I've mentioned above. I think Jax abstracting will 100% happen. The show has hinted at Jax abstracting since episode 6, and even with the new teaser, Jax is still all alone. I think he's abstracting, and again, I think we're going to explore the void, and I think the void is a code name for the database, the code of the digital circus. So I believe Caine was just scared of it because it was too much for him to handle, and he has a god complex and also. So exploring the void, I believe, will be the main thing about this episode. And where they go with it, who knows, honestly. It could go any way. Anyways, my prediction for the ending will be very much in line with the Soma theory. They figure out that they're copies, and they make their own digital circus at the end of the day. So that's what I personally think, and that's all I have. So let me know which theories of mine you agree or disagree with, and as well, any theories you have about this show last episode. I am very curious. I want to talk about this show, man. Oh my god, this show's great. Anyways, until next time, I'll see y'all later. Deuces, bro.